Hi, this is Nancy with On Point TV and Quilting with Nancy, and I'm back again. You don't normally get me 2 days in a row, and some of you might be going, what is she talking about? Last night we had so many technical problems, it just was not funny, and then our audio wasn't working either. And so it was funny, I had it up for about an hour, 300 views, 300 comments. Why can't I hear anything? So we just decided to scrap that whole one, and I'm pretty sure you can hear us now because Bill and I tested it, and we think we even know what the problem was, but for now, we're just going to start again. So let's pretend we're starting from the very beginning. Hi, this is Nancy with On Point TV and Quilting with Nancy, and I want to show you a great new project today. So the project we're going to do is the Happy Blooms Rainbow, and I called it that for a couple of reasons. One, because Happy Blooms is a new collection from my friend Sue Penn at FreeSirit Fabrics. Now I want to show you just a couple of pictures. So here is a layout, the one that I did. Here's an additional layout option, which I do put this in the pattern. And there's Sue. There's Sue actually at her studio. I visited her in Des Moines last year, I think in January. It was freezing cold. That's what I actually remember. And these are the projects that you can make with this. So I'm going to take you through the process of how I made the blocks. Super simple. Curved, but no curved piecing. You can't get any easier than that. And then a really cool way to do sashings, just in case you're doing sashings a different way. I'm going to show you a better, simpler way. Now, I don't see any chatting, and I'm not sure why. So if somebody could just say hello, then I would know that the chatting was working. But I'm going to proceed with the project. So this is where we're going to be working. So this is a template set. It is from Elsa's Backporch. It's an 8-inch rainbow block template. All right, now I see some. Thank you, Debbie and Beverly. Now I know everybody's out there. Okay, so if you have any questions, I can see the chat. So go ahead and give me any questions you have about, well, anything about quilting would be best. If you go much farther than that, I don't know nothing about nothing. Okay, so this is the template set that I'm going to use. Now, the reason that I chose this template set was, one, I'd had it and I'd never used it before, and it was really inexpensive. It is not an expensive template set. Now, right at this very second, it is not at the firesidequilts.com, but it will be there. She's got them on order, so you'll be able to find that. And I remember I was going to add some text to this too. So that Fireside Quilts is where you can get the fabric and the tools. The pattern, which is this one, is going to be, it is right now on my website, which is onpoint-tv. And just so you know, I'm going to be changing that. Hopefully Gina and Athena are going to get this all hammered out, but we are going to go to the website is going to be QuiltingWithNancy.com. Kind of works, right? It's a little easier to remember. So back to our project. All right. We are having a wonderful day. Thank you in the UK. All right. Alberta, Canada, New Mexico, Arizona. We're kind of everywhere. Thank you. So this is the template we're going to use. And before you start doing any of the cutting with the templates, you want to take your fabric. So here's one over here that I just happen to have. And you'll see that it's kind of stiffened. I always like to pre-size my fabric. And when I say pre-size, I'm not saying just like a little bit of a misting on it. I saturate it. And if you ever have a class with me, you will see that happen. I saturate my fabrics because I want them to be stiffer. It makes them easier to work with. And in this project, because we will be doing machine applique, it's a must. If you don't do it, your blocks will distort. Now, one thing I wasn't able to do is last night I used my last piece of the big floral fabric. So in the pattern, it does talk about how you want to take your big floral fabric, cut it down into the smaller pieces, and then you can use the template. Also, the templates, there's a 5-piece template, and this is what I'm going to use because heavens to Betsy, they're just so easy. But in the pattern, there are paper templates. So you can do this without purchasing the Backporch design. Just take the paper templates that are in the pattern and you can copy those onto freezer paper, iron them down onto your fabric, and then you'll be all set. So with this quilt, I'm going to be making a couple of different blocks. The first one is the one with the large floral. So I mentioned here's the actual large floral. This is Happy Blooms by Sue Penn. The link for that on Fireside Quilts is actually in the description of the video, so you can get down to that. The link to my pattern is down there too. But you'll have this fabric with these big flowers. Use your 9.5-inch square ruler and position it over the flowers so that you're getting what you want. Then cut it out with the templates. I'm going to cut out some of the other fabrics because, like I said, I don't have any more of that large fabric left. I used my last piece last night. So the idea using these templates, the one thing that is going to make it really easy, you see how mine are kind of clouded and there's like some fuzzies on them? I can wash that off if I want to. Doesn't really concern me. But what I like to do is on the back of my templates, take and spray some 505. And this is the spray that I use when I'm basting my quilts. This is the one I always use. Newfoundland, Canada, Texas, and Falmouth, Cornwall, England. Hello, the world. Everybody's here. So I take that and I spray it on the back of it. So I kind of did it off camera because I don't want this on my cutting board. So take and spray them. And this spray, the stickiness or the non-slipness that this will leave on the fabric, on the template, doesn't leave anything on the fabric, will last for, I don't know, 10 cuts or something. It really does work pretty well. Then you're going to take those templates and put them down. Now you can do the 2 template cut where you get the large quarter circle and then the large corner, but you also can use the large corner with the inside curve and the small little circle. And that's what I'm going to do because I have enough cut of the large circle. When you're doing this, my fabrics are stiffened and I'm going to put at least 2 layers. Honestly, I generally am going to do more than that, but I only have 2 left. So there's this beautiful orange fabric and then this one. So then there's the red, a blue, and then another multicolor one that I don't have any squares left of. So take your small template, put it down here near the corner. Make sure that you've got, I'm going to make sure, I didn't know if that was, yeah, that blue one is not exactly cut to size. I like to cut these about 9.5 inches. And I don't know if I did that or not. But place that here on the corner. It's not going to slide. Okay. Then using your rotary cutter, cut around the edges. Move that out of the way. Spin your mat. And this is my OmniGrid. This is my bigger of my OmniGrid spinning mats. I love it because I used to have a square one, but the square was always knocking everything off my table. So I really love this one. So that's that cut. I've got 2 pieces there. That'll go into my small quarter circle triangle. Hi, Sherry Gary. And Sherry Gary has just become an Addict member. Sherry, I did just notice that, so I will be sending you out your perks. And what I'm talking about there is if you are in the membership, so I have a membership, there's a join button on my channel. You can find that. The $4.99 membership says, thank you very much for doing these, Nancy. I've learned a lot and I want you to continue doing it. I really appreciate those. The second level is a $10 and that's the designer level. And that's where we get together once a month to do a Zoom training session on electric quilts. So we're we've got usually, 12 or so ladies there, and we're working through how to use electric quilt. Most of the quilts I've designed while in those sessions. And then the third level is the quilt addict, and that's what Sherry has just become. And with the quilt addict level, that means you get to do the Zoom. I'm thanking you for being, for helping me keep doing this. But mostly it means that you get an e-copy of all of my books and patterns, so once a month. So I always start by giving you the Learning to Quilt, which is the full first session that I did, the whole 100 videos that we have on that. But then I already emailed out this pattern. So whenever I come up with a new pattern, right away, you're going to get that in your e-file. All right. Okay, so back to work. Hi, Sherry. All right, so this is the second template. Again, just cutting around the edges. You can't cut them if you leave the other templates there. You are not able to get your rotary cutter between it. Use your 28 millimeter in particular on these inside curves. The larger rotary cutters work fine on the outside curves, but they do not cut very well on those inside curves. There's those. And then that'll leave me my last one, which is my big corners. Going to put that down right about there. All right. And I had cut these squares 9.5 inches after I spray size the fabric. So I take my fabric, spray size it, and then cut it down into 9.5 inches. The reason I do that is even the best fabrics are going to shrink a little bit. And since I do not pre-wash my fabric because I want it to be a little bit stiffer, doing the spray sizing is going to get any stretch, any of the shrinkage out. So I've got this piece, these, I already have some big ones, and then these are some other ones that I've already cut out because you want to get all your like shapes together. This is one of the one from the big flower. Here is, so that's what it looked like. Okay, so I cut out the large piece and then the outside piece, and then I have some large ones. So well, now I've got all my pieces and I'm ready to design the blocks. So I'm going to move those up here a little bit out of the way and get out my 9.5 inch square. So let's turn this so it's right sides and let's match up the lines so everybody doesn't get dizzy. All right. So here's my 9.5 inch square. On that 9.5 inch square, you want to mark it at 8.5 inches because that's the size that this block is going to be. Now you can use your OmniGrid glow tape, a couple layers of the OmniGrid, and we use this a lot. I've used it in lots and lots of my videos. It will leave like a little shadowing, but if you use a couple layers of it, it'll make it a little bit thicker. Now this is not the glow tape. I just had some 1/4 inch tape and I stuck it down, and then I thought, you know what? Not everybody's going to have that random 1/4 inch tape that Nancy just found in her studio. Going to lay that here. And for this part, we're going to use our Roxanne's basting glue. This is that small little bottle of the Roxanne's. This is a really strong hold, but it's actually a basting glue, so it will wash out. The idea, you're just going to take your large piece, put it on the corner. And this is going to be the easiest block you've ever made because you're not going to piece any curves at all. You know, while I'm doing this, I want to tell you how much I appreciate it for those of you that came back after last night's debacles. It was a mess. Okay, then I'm going to take one of these curved pieces and overlap it 1/2 inch, but then mostly just get it to fit in. So if I hold my big square, I can slide the blue piece till it's even on that side and on that side and just push it down. The 1/2 inch overlap is because there is a seam allowance on these. So the seam allowances, the 1/2 inch comes from overlapping the seam allowance. So that's now a 1/2 inch overlap. Just do that with your fabric. Then take, and I'm going to put in that little quarter circle now. And you're going to do dot, not a lot. You don't need a ton of this glue. This stuff holds really well, and I'm going to cap it off so it doesn't get dry. And with this bottle in particular, you'd want to leave it standing there. On camera would be better. Standing straight up, otherwise it all kind of gets all dried out. Hello, St. Clair Shores, Michigan. That's on the other side of where I am. I'm in Grand Rapids on the west side of Michigan, and looks like Karen is on the east side. Now I'm going to take one of the small quarter circles, just tuck it right in here to this little corner, lay it down, and done. The block is done. After I get it designed on my ruler, then I just kind of slide it off and then press it. So I'm just going to press it with the iron so that it'll be nice and flat. Now for the next step. This is so simple, you guys. You're going to love this. All right. We are for this going to use the Clover Bias Tape. This is a pre-made bias tape that back 15 or so years ago, the stained glass quilts were all the rage. I taught classes in that for ages and ages and ages and haven't done one on video. I need to do that. But the idea is it's cut on the bias, and it's got a layer of a fusible here on the back. So when I'm putting it down, it is going to stick. For this, I'm going to use my Clover mini iron. I've got it on high because you want it to get really hot. And the little holder that it comes with doesn't hold for anything. So get yourself a nice big mug. Doesn't have to be as cool as my Wonder Woman mug. You can't get as cool as my Wonder Woman mug. But just stick it right in there, and then it won't tip and burn anything. Okay. So take your tape and lay it down so that the tape width is 1/4 inch. Lay it down so 3 3/16 of that 1/4 inch is on the overlaying fabric. So this fabric is over top of the blue. So on here where I'm laying this, I'm lining it up so it is mostly on the floral fabric and then just a little bit on the blue fabric, because you want to be sure that that raw edge gets covered. All right. As you're working it around, you're just going to press it down. Now I'm just pressing this. This is on my mat. I should have a little bit of a something underneath it. If I were going to use a big iron, I would have, a pressing mat underneath it. But I don't have one of those right now. So we're just going to do this and it's going to work great. There you go. It's held just like that. Then take and cut that off. And then you do the same thing on these little guys, just lining it up, covering it. I'm not going to do that because I do already have some done. So there, this guy. All right. So I'm going to take this piece, and we are now going to go to the sewing machine. So I will be over there in a moment. Okay. So the setup for your sewing machine, the most important thing that you're going to be doing here is putting in a twin needle. Now, I can't move my camera, but here is a twin needle, and it literally has 2 needles going down. You need to use the needle that is a 3mm, and they are available at Fireside Quilts. I know that she has them in stock. The most difficult part about using these, and to the best of my knowledge, any machine that can do a zigzag stitch, any machine, doesn't matter how old it is, if it can do a zigzag stitch, it can use the twin needle. It is hard to thread it though. Your automatic threader will not work with that. So I used the Boheen, and I'm not sure how much of this you can see, but this is the Boheen needle threader, and it's really pretty cool. It like takes the thread and tucks it right inside the needle. Sometimes my fingers are too big. That's why I'm not going to do it on camera. All right. And then you need to have, or should have, it's best if you have, your open toe applique foot. I use my open toe applique foot so very, very much. And so many of my videos you have that. So this is such a worthwhile foot. If you don't have one yet, head to your machine dealer and get yourself one of those. All right, I'm gonna pop that on. All right. The seam guide is just there because it's always there, but I'm actually not going to use it. So when you're using this, I recommend that when you first put on the needle, lower your presser foot and just roll 1 or 2 stitches just to make sure that don't have a plate on that won't work. Now this needle will only work on straight and gentle edges. You can't do, I'll try and do a tighter turn. You can't do a tighter turn with it because there's 2 needles. Like you can't put it down and keep going. So this does not work for lots of different stained glass projects, but it does work for projects that have gentle curves. I was surprised to find that my thread cutter actually worked when I had that on because it's 3 threads. I have loaded in my machine a Masterpiece Black, an Aurifil Black, and in my bobbin is the Aurifil Black. So a fine weight, 50 weight cotton. The idea is you want it to be a matte finish. I wouldn't want it to be shiny on the bias for this. Just personally, I guess you could use it. If you wanted it to be shiny, you could use some rayon thread or some polyester thread. But the back of it looks like this. It actually creates a zigzag stitch on the back. So you cannot use this for any quilting unless you're okay with seeing that on the back. I'm not really okay with seeing that on the back. All right. So that's what that needle is going to do. Oops, I need to put this back in to act as my leader. All right. So I'm going to start with the leader just like we do with everything else. And now I'm just going to jump on over to my block. And the idea is you are just going to work yourself around the block. So the needle is literally stitching on both sides of that black bias tape. So this is literally going to take me half the time. If I were to, I'm going to try to slow my machine down so I can talk and stitch at the same time. If I don't have the twin needle, then you just have to do this twice. You have to go on both sides of the bias to make sure that it's secure. Going down one end won't work. Your raw edge would end up coming out when you wash it. But it can be done if you do not have a twin needle. Then I'm just going to chain piece. So I'm just going to go right off onto my next one. All right. So you can see how quick and easy this is. Now, doing curved piecing is nothing new for me. I honestly love doing curved piecing. But when you're looking for that quick, easy project for this, it wasn't the stitching, it wasn't the piecing that I wanted to really show with this design. It was the fabric, Sue Penn's new fabrics. So now I'm going to go back to my other table because we've done all the stitching. There. All right. Well, thank you very much, Beverly. Beverly's saying, give me a thumbs up. The thumbs up are really important. That's how YouTube determines what's a good video and what's not. Comments, sharing, thumbs up, those kinds of things. They've got some silly algorithm out there that tells them, oh, this was a good video. Share it with other people that like these kinds of videos. So I really appreciate it when you do that. All right. So now that you've got all your blocks done, so let's see, what do I have here? I've got a lot of different ones. So there was not, with the 2 yards of fabric, there's not enough of the large flowers in the 2 yards of fabric. So I did use one of the other designs, and let me show you on the quilt. So like here's the large flower. And then, so what I did is I did a 3-piece block using the square edge of the large flower and then 2 colors. Then I used the center of the large flower. Then I made a 3-piece block, then the center of the large flower. But sometimes, where is it? Over here. I don't have enough of the large flowers. There actually wasn't enough in my 2 yards. So I used this other print that I think is really cool. It's kind of got all of the great aspects that Sue Penn's fabric always have. So that's what you can do for that. So after you get all of the bias on him, once you get it on, and this guy's kind of bumpy because I did not press him yet. So after you get the bias on, do the pressing. Hi, Della. All right, so that's what you're going to do. Then once you've got all of your blocks done, oh, here's some more. Yep. So you can see the kind of fun color combinations that you can do. You know, more is better, lots and lots of different colors. I only used the large floral and 5 other of the colors in this collection. There are more than that, but that's all I used, and they're all available on Fireside Quilts. All right. Once you get them done, it's time to cut your sashings. So for the sashings, if you have not seen me do sashings, this is the idea. Generally speaking, people will say, all right, I've got to make the sashings going between these 2 blocks. This block is an 8.5-inch block. I'm going to cut, and it's only 1.5 inches wide. They will then cut a 1.5-inch wide strip, and then from that, cross cut into the 8.5 inches. That's not the best way. Will it work? Yes, it will work. If you love doing it that way, keep doing it that way. But the better option is to cut the 8.5-inch strip and then cross cut that into 1.5 inches. It wastes less fabric, and because it's on the length of grain, there's no stretch, and so your quilt will literally be more stable. So we've got, so do you have 2 spools of thread in the top? Yes, I do, Karen. I have I had 2 spools of a 50 weight cotton in the top. And in this case, I actually used the same 50 weight cotton in the bobbin. So this is a strip of the fabric that I cut 8.5 inches wide. Then I can take, well, let's do it this way. Let's use the big ruler because then you can do more cuts at once. So if I'm going to cut 1.5-inch wide strips for my sashing, I'm going to start this ruler. This is my big 12-inch ruler. Oh, I can't do it. My mat's not big enough. And if I go down to the my mat, the dark mat, you can't see because it's a black fabric. So if I start at 10.5, this is called power cutting, right? So cut at 10.5. Slide the ruler over to 9.5. Cut at 9.5. Slide the rule over to 7.5. Now I've got lots of different videos out there where I do power cutting, but this really is the basics of it, is that you add those measurements together and then cut. And if I had more room over here, I'd be able to keep sliding to 4.5, 3, and 1.5. But with that, I've got all of my 1.5 by 8.5 inch strips ready to go for piecing the block rows. So the block rows are going to be where you'll have a strip here, a block, a strip here, a block. All right, so that's the block row. Then there is the row that has the cornerstones. So that would be this, the very top row, and then these. So this row is a cornerstone sashing, cornerstone sashing, cornerstone sashing, cornerstone sashing, and so on. Well, sometimes you'll find instructions that say cut those strips, that 1.5 by 8.5 inches, and then sew onto it a 1.5 inch square of cornerstone, then sew another strip on, and then another 1.5 inch square. Well, that's just very time consuming. Here is a quicker way. Instead, and I've already cut into this so it's not quite long enough, but instead take and cut 8.5 inch wide, there, 8.5 inch wide strips of the black, 1.5 inch wide strips of the yellow, and piece that all together first. So you see how this will fit right here on the back there for the second row. Then take that and press all of the seams toward the sashing. So when you piece the blocks, you press toward the sashing. So when you're doing your cornerstone, press toward the sashing. Then fold that up. Okay, 1, 2, and I'm going to go to 4 layers because I'm going to just be on my little mat here. So I've got, I don't know, 8 or 9 layers of fabric there. I'm going to do the same kind of power cutting. This time I'll use just a shorter ruler, so I won't do that many. And because I'm going to be cutting through so many layers, this is a time to pull out your 60 millimeter, of course, with a really, really sharp blade on it. Okay, so then I can cut, slide over to 1.5. And then I would have my sashing row all done. So much easier than piecing the little square on there. And look at how straight it is. I mean, seriously, that, could my piecing be any better? No, because I didn't really have to do it that way. You just do it as a strip and cut them out. All right. Thank you very much, Hillary. I appreciate that. So there you go. Once you have these done and you have your blocks done with their sashings, you piece it all together, quilt, and then border as desire. I used 2 yards of the Happy Blooms fabric, the big flower fabric, and I cut it length of grain, that 2 yards length of grain, because I did not want to have a seam piecing it right in the middle of the flower. That would just not be cool. And then quilt as desired. Now, my intention with this, and this particular one behind me, these were done quilt as you go. I know how popular that is. The one that I did with the log cabin was super popular. I love that everybody loved that one. And so I'm trying to figure out how to do this as a quilt as you go. The idea is instead of quilt as you go one little block at a time, which I could do, but it's just so small. It's just, for me, that's just not working. So this is what I'm trying to do. I'm piecing together 4 blocks at a time, quilting it, then doing the 1-inch sashing between the 2 blocks with the little cornerstone. The problem I'm running into is that this is a 1.5 inch strip. That needs to be a 2-inch strip, and so my measurements aren't working. So I did not do the pattern with the quilt as you go. But those of you that are Quiltatic members, when I figure that out, and it'll be like an addendum to the pattern, you will get that for free because I will do a video on that. Those of you that are purchasing the e-pattern for just the Happy Blooms, just to make the quilt top just the way you want it and then quilt it as ever, I will send out to you the addendum to that when I actually figure out how I can do it. So it'll be a little bit trickier. This super easy quilt. Doing the quilt as you go makes it a little bit more complicated, but then you get the advantage that you didn't have to send it out to somebody else to quilt it. But I know that some of you are brave enough to quilt on your own machines. That's what you really want to do. Okay. So let's see. Thanks. Well, you're very welcome. All right. Can you show the backing of the quilt? The backing of the quilt is actually done in that quilt as you go right now. So I've done the big squares, did the sashings like I did on the log cabin, but I didn't finish it. And I also want to try to figure out with quilt as you go how I can do a mitered corner with it. It worked, but it's not great. It's not really a good corner. So Bill and I are going on vacation tomorrow. Then, there's the holidays and things like that. But at some point early in 2023, I really, really plan to have this set up. So it could be another option for Quilts as You Go for those of you that like to do that. So the pattern is available on my website, onpoint-tv. The link is in the description of this video. The fabrics, the tools, all of that is available at firesidequilts.com. If you are interested in a kit, so all the fabrics that I used for mine, if you would email Laura, so email Laura at firesidequilts.com, that is in the description too. She'll be able to make for you a kit up, and that'll just make it a lot easier so you don't have to pick through things. She's getting the templates, she's got the bias tape, or no, she's getting the templates and the bias tape. She's got the Clover mini iron, she's got the Roxanne's glue, and she's got the twin needles already. So, all right. Well, thank you very much. We're going down to Florida for a little bit. We're going to go tour the Gulf Coast just because Bill had extra vacation time. So thank you very much for watching. Like Beverly had said, if you give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, share it, subscribe. And did you know, those of you that are subscribed, that if you click that bell, you will get a notification. So when I put up the video saying that, I'm going to go live, you'll actually just get a little notification saying, hey, Nancy's going to go live, and then you'll know that that's going to happen. So that's all I got to say today. If you have any questions about this or anything else involving quilting, go ahead and email me at quiltingwithnancy@gmail. No, email me at withnancy@gmail.com. All those words just kind of blended together. Thank you so much for watching.